You really think he's dead?
Tragedy is a narrative tool found in almost every form of media. Comics, movies, anime, and then some. It's a plot device that's used to drive stories forward by introducing loss, raising the stakes, and creating tension. When done right, it can elevate a story to new heights, making every victory or resolution feel that much more rewarding, but sometimes it's used to write characters out of a story when the author doesn't know what to do with them anymore. Lookism is no exception. When it comes to tragedy, just like your Narutos or your One Pieces, people have died. And I say this because death is probably the most simplest form of tragedy to recognize. Don't get me wrong, Lookism doesn't stop there. There are characters abandoned by their parents, parents torn apart by divorce, or parents who've died entirely. This is definitely not a pattern I wanted to. Regardless, in Lookism, there's one character that collects tragedy like Pokemon cards, and that's Eli Jang. Okay, look, before anyone else brings it up in the comments like they're the ones making the YouTube videos, I understand that there are some characters who've had it worse, but the reason I chose Eli is, well, his tragedy is done right. Couple reasons, but the biggest one being relatability. Lookism's a crazy story with even crazier characters, and Lookism being crazy, their backstories can be a little crazy. But that's exactly what makes Eli so different. He's not like Xiao Long, who faced an entire underground Chinese organization to be with the love of his life. It's poetic, but how often do you meet someone who's fought underground organizations because of a crush? Be sure your neighbor Bob over there can relate. It's hard to relate to Xiao Long. His circumstance, although tragic, is hard to sympathize with. It's also hard to sympathize with him amongst other things he's experienced, but it's beyond our comprehension, figuratively and literally. So that eliminates him from a tragedy done right.
He said it!
Now, some of you might be thinking, Kaiseni, how about Daniel Park? And that's a good contender. In fact, this video would probably be about him if my girl Eli didn't exist, but you're wrong, and here's why. The key to a relatable character is being able to empathize with the character. It's how they draw you in that matters, how they make you feel their anguish, and how you perceive their experiences as a character. And that would work on Daniel, however, we forget a tiny, teensy little detail. He has a whole nother life that's perfect. Okay, I need you to lock in for me for a second. Daniel's story begins to separate from a story of one when he gets his second body. All of a sudden, everything seems so light, even consequences. In my opinion, mistakes are what grow a character, which ties into why Eli is so good, but we'll get to that later. Essentially, for the rest of the story, everyone has one chance, one redemption, one moment. While Daniel, don't get me wrong, I still love him as a character, but everything he does feels so light compared to the others, I guess. It's hard to explain, but let me give you an analogy. For Zack, he had to get stronger, he had to get better in order to get Johan back because that was the one chance he had. But for Daniel, he's got a 6'2" lean, 3% body fat second chance. And when he fails, he depends on his second body to achieve the goals he couldn't using his first. And to me, that really diminishes the worth of second chances. Most people are scared that everything they try to do will lead to failure, not knowing that a shot you don't make is ultimately a shot you miss. Like asking your crush out, going to your boss for a raise, or not trying out today's sponsor, Anime Art Academy. This is my drawing without Anime Art Academy, and this is my drawing after Anime Art Academy. Anime Art Academy hosts a plethora of art courses taught by real mangakas in Japan. They teach you art things like anatomy, dimensions, and how to draw shapes. Not those ones, like these ones. And at the starting price of $47, you can learn how to draw your very own Lookism fanfiction, you sick freaks. Okay, look, I know $47 is a steep price until you realize that normal art courses cost $125 an hour. I've been looking to make my own manhwa for a long time now, and Anime Art Academy has been a really good tool for me to practice. Of course, you don't need anything besides a pen and paper to learn how to draw, don't get me wrong, but having a good teacher goes a long way. And also, I make money off of this when you buy, so try out the free taster course down in the description, and thanks to Art Academy for sponsoring this video. Okay, so what makes Eli so different from Xiaolong or Daniel, who've had equally or worse circumstances? Well, it's simple. Realism! I don't know why I did that. Eli is probably the realest character in Lookism. We've all experienced loneliness at one point or another, and in the earlier chapters, I personally relate hard to Eli. His tragedy is so normal that it doesn't take a genius to realize that Eli is a heavily troubled man. Getting into specifics, Eli to me is so special because he's just like me for real, in the aspect that despite the world not being on his side, he believes that destiny is what you make of it. He found Hostel because of his longing for family, found a brother because of his longing for a bond, and he agreed to join the 4 major crews to make money to support his family, and honestly, I respect the grind. I could go on and on about this guy's mistakes for at least 2 more videos, but that's the beauty of it. Mistakes get annoying to deal with, especially if a character makes them again and again and again and again and again and again. But for Eli, it just feels right in that regard because of one key aspect. He's trying to do better. For the longest time, he had no idea what to think of family. It was the one thing he treasured, and it was the one thing that hurt him the most. Seeing Eli struggle and overcome his mistakes has been one of the highlights of the series. Unlike characters like Daniel, Eli's emotional growth doesn't feel stale. He gets better and worse. One of the best examples of progress in my opinion. The issue with most of these characters is how linear they are. They're such open books, I might as well be reading Dr. Seuss. Eli doesn't have that problem, because you don't know what he'll do. He's the head of one of the 4 major crews one arc, and a part of the J-High Alliance the next, and then he joins the workers. But in reality, these things never mattered to him. The 4 major crews never mattered to him. Charles Troy never mattered to him. In fact, if all his enemies simply left him alone, they might have had better outcomes. That's because the story never mattered to Eli. Fuck everything else, to be honest. He just wanted to play Barbie life in the dream house with his family. But that's why I mess with him so much. Eli to me feels like the most human among the cast. He's selfish, but he's not evil. He's made mistakes, but the most important part, he's trying to do better. I hope you guys liked this video. If you remember a couple months ago I made a video about Eli, but looking back, I feel like that didn't really capture what I wanted the video to be about. Also, I hope you like this new style of editing. This was more of a passion project for me than anything, laying out my creativity on something I'm happy with, instead of a soulless, empty narrated piece of algorithm, which I will continue to do, by the way. Just not on this one. And, oh yeah, Patreon. I have a Patreon now. Go give me more of your money.